Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome to the Corporate Danger Zone. Are y'all ready for some great conversation? I didn't hear you. Are you ready for some great conversation? All right. So, I am Tamara Beverley. I am an award-winning transformational leader in the luxury automotive and global trucking industries. I am also the founder of the Corporate Girl Network. It is a social networking boutique professional development company for women. How excited are we to be here talking about the corporate danger zone? How many of you have ever heard of the glass cliff? Wow, only a few of you. Okay. So let me help to just provide a little bit of context for today's conversation. So the glass cliff, in the early 2000s, Michelle Ryan and Alex Haslam from the University of Exeter out of the United Kingdom, they conducted a study where they took a look at women in leadership who had been appointed to their positions during times of organizational crises or economic downturn. This is a time when the likelihood, the probability of failure is much higher. So essentially, the glass cliff and the glass ceiling are first cousins. Because what this study found is that it's no longer just about breaking through the glass ceiling. It is also about facing a dangerous edge once we get through that ceiling. So that is the context of today's conversation, because not only are we going to talk more about the glass cliff, but we're also going to talk about how to recognize it, how to navigate it, and how to leverage it to your advantage. Does that sound good? All right. I have 4 amazing women who are joining me here today in this discussion. And just please hold your applause as I briefly introduce all of them to you. First, Tope Ajala, a globally influential advocate and business leader with an internationally informed perspective to her work. Not only launching groundbreaking initiatives at Ogilvy, but she's also dedicated to mentoring and empowering women through one of many organizations and initiatives that she either founded or is involved with. Next, we have Regina Luzincourt. Her career journey, I know, it's Twitter folks. Her career journey exemplifies over 17 years of impactful leadership in government relations, communications, and strategic partnerships, effectively driving change across various sectors and championing sound policy development for Toyota, all while fostering respect and collaboration. Olanda Sharp-Buckley, overseeing a large P&L with a team, get this, with team members in 28 countries that deliver over 6.5 million technical learning hours per year, servicing customers in 186 countries. These women are bad, okay? Cindy, Tyeskey-Gage. Salesforce. I see Salesforce is in the house.
Love it.
I love it.
A global and dynamic executive with over 3 decades of corporate experience, architecting and introducing smart technology, automation, and AI to elevate employee relations work while serving as the executive advisor for Salesforce's Global Women's Network. Ladies, please help me welcome our phenomenal So just to get us started, could each of you share briefly just one thing that you would like these women to leave here with today?
I'll start. Okay.
The one thing that comes to mind is I want everyone to redefine success, because the traditional measures of success wasn't for us. So like, how do we redefine success in moments of crisis where we understand that we belong and we should be supported? So part of the discussion I'm going to have is like, how do we redefine success for us and not what was set up for us?
Greetings, family. Well, yes.
Yes.
I think my desired goal is to educate, but also provoke a sense of an aha moment, while encouraging all of us to be fully present in the moment. I think we have been hearing this message of being in, sort of taking out, unmasking ourselves, and just be truly who we are. I often reference the author Eckhart Tolle, who talks about the present of now, the mindfulness, but really and truly that being present leads us to clarity. And I think if we allow ourselves to sit still, understand, and educate ourselves on what do we need to take away from these issues, that there's clarity on how we execute some of our successes. And so, thank you.
Yeah.
I would say I would like everyone to take an intimate moment with you and your mirror. Everyone always hears me say, the only conversations you really need to have is between you and the mirror. And so many times we do not look at the mirror and really have honest, authentic conversations with ourselves. So hopefully this session and this weekend really allows you to pull the mirror out and have intimate, real conversations with yourself.
Hi, I think about this in so many ways, but I think about it personally for me is I would love for everyone to leave not only this session, but this conference with the poem from Maya Angelou in Still I Rise. I was gonna read it to y'all, but we don't have a lot of time. But as we are journeying through life and our careers, we are going to have down moments. We are going to have people that don't want you in the room. And you're going to have to look in the mirror, and you're gonna have to be resilient, and you're gonna have to only listen to your own voice. And you're gonna have to say, you can read the poems for yourself, but you can throw everything, bring it. Everything that you've got, bring it, and still I rise.
All right. So earlier I asked the question in terms of how many of you had heard of the glass cliff. And for those of you that have you ever experienced it personally? Just show a hand. Anybody experienced it personally? You have? Okay, so a couple people. Okay, so that helps us. All right, so Tope.
Yes.
It's astonishing how in 2025, we're still dealing with economic inequality, all of the inequalities, all of the things here in 2025. In your line of work, I'm sure you have seen a lot, experienced a lot. Can you share with us your perspective, your experience as it relates to the glass cliff?
Okay. Question first to the audience. How many people think inclusion is their role? Just show of hands. Is part of your role? Is inclusion part of your role?
Your role.
Okay. And then the next question is, how many people were hired during a time of economic crisis? I see a couple of hands. All right. So the glass cliff, which I think it's newish, it's about 10, nearly 20 years old. It's the concept of they hire underrepresented people, mainly women, and mainly Black women, to come in and save the day, right? Intending for us to fail or to see if we can do it. So you have to almost understand that this is either an opportunity that you're set up for or an opportunity for you to fail. And you get to decide which direction you go into. So the glass cliff, especially in the world of DE&I, 2020 folks, are we in a room? Mm-hmm. Especially in the world of DE&I, we see that, underrepresented communities, women specifically, are tasked with something that they don't have the equipment or support to do. And that's the reality of it. So there's this high expectation that you're here to solve the day, save the day, but then you're not in the room where decisions are being made. And that's essentially the glass ceiling. And I've seen it in peers. The famous example, someone I know, so who knows P.F. Chang's? The CEO of P.F. Chang's. So when P.F. Chang's was failing, they hired a young, black, Nigerian guy. And what did he do? He turned it around and made them profitable. Red Lobster is doing exactly the same thing with him. They've now taken him on. And in the conversations I've seen him have over the last few months, it's the idea that he's chosen to take on that risk. And I think the difference in being set up for success when it comes to the glass cliff is understanding, do you have the tools and resources to be successful? Do women have the tools and resources to be successful? And do black women have the resources and tools to be successful? Because every single layer, as you start asking that question, you realize that's not the case. You realize that it's a choice that you were told to make without being fully informed. So as I say to people, especially in the D&I world, ask yourself, how am I redefining leadership for me so that I'm successful? And am I telling the business, this is what I need in order to be set up for success? I need money to fund a team. I need your support. I need to be in the room.
Yes.
Don't kick me out of the room, then blame me when it all comes crashing. Right? So those are the moments where that glass cliff, especially in the world I'm in these days, you're hanging on by a thread, and the only thing that supports and helps you is your community. So I always encourage women in this season of the glass cliff and understanding what you're signing up for. Make sure you're holding the business accountable just as much as they have an expectation for you, have an expectation for them. Because if you're coming into an economic downturn, that means your compensation also wasn't fair. Right? So these are things that you have to let them know you're aware of, and then you start holding them accountable by actual metrics. And then if anything happens, you have your metrics to fall back on, and you have your community to fall back on, and sponsors and supporters.
Yeah, I love that. So 2 things that you said that I just want to put a pin in. One is the primary reason behind the glass cliff is due to deep-seated stereotypes and biases. That's one of the things you mentioned. And then secondly, I think we all know when an organization is in crises or if there's an economic downturn, the other thing that you're going to see with that organization is constrained budgets, constrained resources, and time constraints. Yeah. Those are all critical success factors. If you don't have those, then maybe it is a setup for failure. Or not. I don't know. Let's talk about it. So Regina. So in my latest book, Unparalleled Resilience, there is a woman who is featured in the book who was facing a glass cliff scenario. Unfortunately, she fell off the cliff, meaning she was let go. I think the primary reason she fell off is because she did not recognize it until it was too late, okay? So with that in mind, how can individuals who, whether they see it coming or not, but all of a sudden find themselves on a glass cliff, how do they navigate that terrain? How do they, make it to where they don't fall off that cliff?
Well, thank you, Tamara. So what you forgot to add is she fell off the cliff and landed on her feet. And I'll tell you and give you some reasons on how we can do that. I mean, there's certainly some risk in what we're talking about with the glass cliff, but there's also some reward. I think this panel or this discussion is more impactful now than it has been before, because I think we've oftentimes focused on the term the glass ceiling and trying to kind of break that invisible barrier that prevents women to get into leadership. But what we often don't focus on is what happens when we break through. Look what happened in this past election. We had U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, who has taken over the Democratic nominee for president with just 100 days to put a whole campaign together in what normally would take years. And with all the experience she's had in her role as, we know the laundry list, folks still merely looked at her as a DEI hire or a DEI pick. And that, many would say that was simply a glass cliff experience, or, she was put into a very precarious situation, depending on how you look at it. But this is too common when women, especially women of color, step into these leadership roles during the crisis moments. They often are faced heightened scrutiny. We saw that if things don't turn around overnight, there's harsher criticisms that they're facing. Expectations are extremely unrealistic. And of course, all of this could be, the pressure is overwhelming, to say the least. And so rather than acknowledging the problem, let's talk about how to navigate these situations strategically. And thankfully, there are some proactive steps. You have mentioned some, Tope, so thank you. But I would say when we are provided these opportunities, we should feel empowered to step into this leadership, step into your leadership, but going with your eyes open. Bold leadership means taking calculated risk. I worked in the labor union movement for about 10, 12 years in the transportation world. And then there was a period in my career where I was asked to go into financial services. And I was like, well, hello, I work for unions and transportation. And they was like, but Regina, you have the skill to navigate. And I know some folks can relate here. I was going through a divorce. I have a son. And I'm like, you want me to leave this cushy job to go into this new sector? It was the best decision that I've made, even though I haven't lasted there. That position has led me back to my passion, Toyota, in the transportation sector. And so it was a bold and calculated risk. Of course, there was other factors that I took into consideration. But when you are often placed in some of these crisis situations, actively seek support networks. At this point, I don't ask, I kindly assign. I have, some of my execs here and mentors, and I'm like, hey, thank you for signing up to be my support mentor. And they laugh, but seriously, let's just expedite this whole process. Leadership is not a solo journey, and that's why it's critical. And then, of course, going in with your eyes open, assess the situation before accepting the role. Listen, most of us, we vet our partners before we accept them, or I hope we do. All right, there's a reason why they say you date with purpose, right? And if we can take the same steps and the strategies to choose our partners, we can do the same when choosing the roles. I'm sorry, I had to make this relatable because we often don't make those practical steps. But understand what you're stepping into is really what I'm driving here. And then, and I think this was mentioned here, negotiate the tools you need to succeed. You ask for the budget, the staffing, all of that is critical. And I think, and then of course, when evaluating all of this, it may or may not work, and be okay to walk away if the cards just don't line up.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But to just decline based off of what the scenario looks like without asking the right questions may be a missed opportunity. But after you have gone through all the steps, surely, and it just does not feel like a win, it is okay to walk away because that is not your win at the moment.
Yeah, that's good. And so, Cindy, I know you have an interesting perspective on this in terms of, is this a setup for failure or is this an opportunity to thrive? So we heard Regina talk, a bit about what to do if you find yourself in that place, but please share your perspective in terms of, is this an opportunity to thrive?
Sure. Ladies, when we met this group to talk about this panel, and we were talking about the glass cliff, I said to this group that I want to share my perspective is this is an opportunity. Oftentimes we don't get these opportunities, and I do agree that at some point, if it's not lining up, we can be wise enough to step out. But I want to encourage everybody to lean in, because we are always asking for access and opportunity. And frankly, I don't care if it comes through the glass cliff. I got it, I'm gonna look at it, I'm gonna embrace it, and I wanna understand what are my next steps. And so for me, I'm gonna take the challenge. I took the challenge in my career. I come from a sales and marketing background, no HR experience, and I was offered an opportunity by our human resource leader, chief human resource leader, to lead employee relations of all things. And that's a very tough gig. And not only is that a tough gig, it was during COVID. And COVID really opened up, the first time even in my career, the opportunity where we start to see employee activism a bit. You're a non-vax, you're a vax, you're stupid if you get vaccinated, don't vaccinate your kids. You know, I mean, let's take, ivermectin, let's take the horse stuff, all kinds of stuff was going on. And it was a time of fear and panic. It was a time of business deciding, especially at Salesforce, very customer-facing organization. We had to go in and we had to shut down and figure out how we would reach our customers. Employees were outraged that they couldn't travel to see their sales customers. People were afraid. And we had to set up this whole crisis center where people could be free to share why they were afraid. But I was new to HR in that moment. But I'll tell you what I did and what I encourage you to do. And I was in panic mode. I'm not telling you it was smooth. I was like, holy hell, what have I said yes to? And we ended up rallying a troop of folks together. So build a support system for me. I built a team. The global lead of employment labor, Suham Walker, I'm gonna give her a shout out. The global ethics and integrity leadership team, and my 4 regional directs around the world. Those were my board of directors. And they trusted me, and I trusted them to give me not just feedback, but constructive feedback to keep me on point. So point 1 is lean in and embrace it. Point 2 is get yourself surrounded by the people that are experts, that are gonna help you and that are gonna have your back. The next was to really set a very clear vision and strategy on how are we going to attack the situation. And 1, how am I gonna also learn the business? And I'll tell you, I walked in, and there's something about remembering that we bring some good stuff to the table, even if we haven't done that job before, and having a set of fresh eyes. So I came from the business, and if you know, technology is all about your phone, and we used to say success anywhere. And I had dashboards, and I could look at my marketing team, and I could see what campaigns, how much pipe are we generating, and I could say who was generating the most pipe, who did the most campaigns. And then I got to ER, and I didn't have that. And I was saying, what? I'm still in the same company, where is the stuff? I mean, where is the stuff? And so I'm proud to say that I brought innovation to employee relations by saying, we're running a business. This isn't just about transacting cases, like social work, we put it in the packet and put it away. What about sharing insights, trends? How can we share with the company what we're learning and what we're hearing? This is a huge opportunity and avenue. And I began to pitch that.
Yeah.
And I got the budget. It took a while to get it implemented. I'm not gonna lie, it took about 18 months. We just went live February.
Yes.
But the point being is, as scared as I was, I also brought something to the table. And the fact that I was sharing with my leadership, hey, we can be better. We can drive a different value. to the business from ER. They believed in me now, and they were on that campaign with me. And so when you get into these positions, get the people, go for some quick wins. You're not gonna boil the ocean. I told you it took 2 years. But you celebrate the quick wins. And the other thing, I don't remember who said it, but you also need to control everything from your point of view. Everything that you can control, you need to control it. And the way you do that is being very vocal about your quick wins, about your strategy with your leadership. And lastly, you box them in. When you talk to your leaders and you took that glass cliff job, you say, here's what we've accomplished so far. Here's our vision. Here's our strategy. Is this aligning with what you expect from this? And you do it often, because when you do your good job, and we are good at this, putting our head in the sand and work hard. Just keep it going. We're going to work hard. And we're not talking about what we're doing. They're assuming you're not doing your job.
Facts.
And then it's too late, because they come knocking at the door and say, well, that's really not what we wanted. No, you're not getting that opportunity. I'm boxing you in. And we're talking all the way. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to share with me where we're falling short and where we may be able to adjust. And you and your team have to be resilient and flexible. Because if you have to pivot, pivot. Don't be stupid and be stick in the mud. This was the way I wanted to do it, and I'm not changing it.
Right.
No, be willing to pivot. So I think I've said it all.
Yes. All right, thank you for coming.
And some.
So where are my 92 percenters? My 92 percenters. Okay, so essentially what she just said is, while we're resting, we're still preparing, okay? We're preparing for that next assignment. We're preparing for that next thing that's going to come our way. So we can rest, but in your rest, prepare. All right, Olanda. So I recently read an article that referenced Ursula Burns, the first Black woman CEO of a Fortune 500. And that article talked about her and how she climbed the corporate ladder. And they asked her what was her strategy. And she said this: relentlessly taking advantage of every opportunity thrown her way at work, no matter how inconvenient. I don't know if I can do that. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I can do that. So, how can we better prepare and position ourselves for success in our careers, and especially as women in leadership?
Okay. Well, first, I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace, because I'm probably going to say some things that might not be as popular. I do run a very large P&L, so that means I'm responsible for it all, right? The product, selling the product, making sure that we get revenue from the product, and making sure the customer's happy. So I can tell you I care about two things: making sure my customer gets the most excellent service that they can get, and contributing to Dell's bottom line. I care about one color, and that's green. And I say that because you say control what you can control. We are not in a room talking about putting you on a cliff and knocking you off the cliff. Right. There may be people who might not see you and want you in the room, but don't think that is the norm in every situation. So how you can prepare is, one, whatever role you get in, you need to make sure that it is data-driven, where success is not subjective.
Yeah.
So I can tell you right now, every end of quarter, I know if I have exceeded or if I have failed. Because numbers, the data, the green, customer experience, I want to be in the black. And for anybody who runs a business, you know black is better than even green.
Yes.
Because that means that you have overachieved. So if you allow your success to be subjective, you've created your own cliff.
Wow. Wow.
So from an actionable perspective, I will tell you, and Shayla's in the room, and she calls me, she says, I have my Olanda-isms. I say there's facts and feelings. You leave your feelings at the door and you lead with the facts. That is going to be the best way for you to succeed. So I can tell you, I am a fixer. Call me, because I know every time I get a call, the job is messy. I am like your Olivia Pope, but I don't kill people. Maybe hurt a couple feelings, but not that. And I know that the higher the role, the bigger the mess. So you have to know your why. Know why you want the role in the first place. Because when the messy middle comes, and it will come, you talked about divorce. Your kids act like they ain't got no sense. As soon as you get the dream job, the doctor calls and said your blood pressure's high, the cholesterol is this. There is going to be mess. But if you know your why, you will prepare, you will plan, and you will pray your way through the mess.
Amen.
So Salesforce is in the house, and you guys are trailheads. And I lead learning, and we do a lot of AI. The best thing you will do in this environment, grace, remember grace. AI is going to take some of the tasks that you do each and every day. If you hit F12 172 times a week, it is going away. Learn what is coming. You need to eliminate what does not make your company money. You need to automate and standardize what you can, and get very intimate with numbers, because all AI is algorithms on steroids.
Yep.
So you just need to prepare. Salesforce, Dell, we all have learning programs that are free to you. I have a website, learning.dell.com. Go get a certification. Understand, prepare today. The roles are changing, but the opportunities are endless. And when you are in the room, do not think because you are Black, you are disadvantaged. Be in the Black, and you will always be the advantage.
Yeah. That's good.
That's so good. So ladies, we are going to do Q&A. So if any of you have questions and you want to start making your way to the mic, I'm going to talk about or get into the politics of all of this and how do we manage that. And so as you're thinking about that, so ladies, when you come to the mic to ask your questions, please keep it brief. Please just state your name, your company, and just state your question, okay? Just so that we can get in as many questions as possible. So, how do we manage the politics of it all?
Who wants to start?
I'm going to keep my check. So, look, I will be the first to say, you have to understand your company politics. You have to understand your company culture. And Regina said it best. You have to know when you need to put it on the line. If your ethics and morals don't align with it, then you might need to make decisions. But politics changes. Depending on what you support may change. So I will tell you, for me, I know my company culture. I stay away from politics as much as I can, because I support customers in 186 countries. There are people who don't like the US. I have countries I cannot go to. We're banned. So I say, as long as I treat people with morals and ethics and integrity and follow the guidelines, that's what I'm not trying to go in and be radical and lose my job. I respect the people that do. But if we're not at the table, I can't help bring more people to the table.
And I just want to touch on that. I think we all forget that politics is part of a business. It's how you rise up, and it's how you fall down. So like finding those advocates that will bring you to the room. I think Valerie said it in the last session. You can't barge your way into a room. You're going to need advocates to champion and invite you into the room. So if you're not being invited into the room because you're not playing the politics and you're not playing the game, you're never going to have a voice at a table.
Yeah.
You're going to be shouting from outside of the club because you can't get in. So just remembering that, like, in this season, especially in this political climate, understand that you have to be smarter, because I take risk every day. It's my job. I'm a D&I expert. I'm always telling people no. I'm telling the business, let's be better. But in this season, I'm like, hey, let's be better right? You have to bring solutions to the table, or else they will always see you as a problem, right? And I started telling myself, I think I was having this conversation earlier, I was saying to myself, in this political climate where I have to play the game, I also have to tell myself every day, you are worthy of being in spaces outside of crisis. And you have to let leaders know that they can bring you in to make other decisions outside of crisis. But you
would
have to
also-
play the game.
Yes. And then,
But you have to play the game.
and then
You go ahead.
yes, it's going to be brief. You know, there have been a few women that's come up to me and like, how are you doing? And, you know, because I believe I'm the only lobbyist up here or a government affairs person. And I'm like, I'm fine. And I'm not saying that we should all be fine, but I think it's a matter of just being very honest about, and you said it best, like facts, not feelings. Like I play, honestly, this as a game of chess, right? I get the work done. I've always been an advocate on both sides for, you know, I talk with Republicans, I talk with Democrats, but I also understand the importance of internal politics in your company. We're at a point, and I know you use politics loosely, but I always encourage folks to understand that the external politics is playing more into the company's policy more than it has ever been. And so this idea of running away because we don't like what's being said, et cetera, is just allowing our voices not to be heard. Yeah. And there's ways of advocacy in your way that just being mindful that if you're doing it from your own perspective, that it doesn't violate the company that you represent and you work for. But I am of the opposite in that I lean into it very much, and whether it's external or internal.
Yeah. So what she said is this is a game of chess, not checkers.
Be smart.
Be smart.
And I was just going to add, I use politics in a different way, like to my advantage. You know, when you think about how government is run, by the time Congress gets together to vote, if you don't think there's been a lot of conversations that have happened before that vote is cast, you're fooling yourselves. So sometimes I know I'm not in the room, and I guarantee you my voice is. I take advantage of establishing really strategic relationships, and I become the whisperer. I give them advice, they come to me, they trust me, and they take their power into the room and take the seat. But they're speaking a lot of my voice. And so what I would say to you is, like, find out who you can influence, because our influence is just as good. I don't always have to have my behind at the table, but I do want my voice in the room.
That's good. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marilyn Addy. Thank you so much for the wisdom that you've given us already. I lead global performance management at LinkedIn. And I'm really curious about how you deal with blockers. When you've kind of gone to the glass cliff and you've crushed it, and you've been an outperformer, and you've done really well, and you get recognized, but then you keep getting tapped to be the fixer on a lateral level, but not necessarily be rewarded with promotions. How do you push through and also make sure that you're getting rewarded in the way you wanted to get rewarded? So I'm just curious if you've ever had to deal with blockers, whether it's leadership that just likes to keep you fixing things for them so they look good, or any other blockers like that. I would love your advice.
Yeah.
I'm in tech, an executive in tech. There's not very many people that look like us. There's always going to be a blockers. Your blockers can look just like you in some situations. So you just,
Say that again.
well, they can. Recognize blockers come in all forms, shapes, fashions, and things.
Yes.
The lateral, I just want to go to the lateral. Laterals aren't bad. And sometimes laterals have a very bad brand, and it's not. If the lateral, you're going to gain something that you don't have, then it actually is a benefit. It's a little subjective what you ask, because the outcome, it might be pay, it might be the title, it might be the role. So you have to really determine, did someone pass me up for a role? Did you still get compensated for the role that you do? The blockers are going to exist. So you have to just figure out the strategy, right? You got to predict the roadblocks that are coming. We all know, listen, today I'm sure somebody says I'm a DEI, and I said, look, I am not qualified for the job I have. I am not. I truly am not qualified. I am way overqualified for what I do. But I will let you believe that. But there's going to be someone who is going to try to block you. Control what you can control. Let them have it, because the reality is If you know who you are and whose you are, then the job was never for you in the first place. But you are going to have it. Shake it off, because I've had it, and I've had to train them. I've had to train the people that get the role that I probably should have had.
Yeah.
And that is okay.
Yeah.
But you have to be okay with that, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I will only add one thing, and I love that about laterals. I would say do the laterals, gain the skills, and if the blocker is still there, take your big treasure chest somewhere else.
I'm Abby. I'm a lead technical writer at Salesforce. And I think y'all may have partially answered this, but I wanted to know, how do you prioritize what to work on when you have tons of problems to deal with?
Who wants to take that one? It's a prioritization, is what you're asking.
So I can take it. I can take it. So something someone taught me a few years ago was you have to draw a quadrant, right? And in that quadrant, things you need to do now, things you can pass off later, things you can deprioritize, and things you can come back to. And I think that has helped me tremendously, because as you start putting things in buckets, you realize this to-do list can actually be done another time, or it can be passed to someone else. But you actually have to tell yourself that not everything is urgent and not everything is important. And just because of who we are, we still are going to get it done. But you have to communicate with your managers and your leaders to let them know, is this a high priority or is this? Because what might be a high priority to you may not be to them. And that is what typically blocks us, is we start working on things that we think is important and they're like, no, right? So communicate what you think is important, but also have them verify it and do the quadrant. That's worked every single time.
And if you're customer facing, I would say customers come first. Like, for my priority,
Yes, customers and clients.
if you are customer facing, there should be no priority but your customers.
Right.
And then you have to really do the line of, is this a value? Is it not a value? Can someone else do it? We do have a problem, maybe not you. I have a little bit of a control issue, an overachiever syndrome, and so delegating to others isn't always my strongest ability on some things, but you learn at a certain level, if you do not delegate, you will be deleted, because you will not have enough time to do everything. My number one is customers come first, and you'll have to figure out your org structure to figure out the other priorities.
Yeah, good.
She stole my
Because I was
We're thinking the same.
we are definitely thinking the same, and I say that all kiddingly, but from personal experience, Toyota believes in, and I know companies say this, but we actually believe in the culture of collaboration. And something very new for me coming into an organization and a team of lobbyists, where if one of us can't do it, that we can certainly lean on our colleagues to do it. I was always of the mindset like, ooh, that's your bucket, you got to do that all on your own, et cetera. And so don't be afraid to ask for help, or, like you said about the organizational structure, sort of communicate what the priorities are. I mean, in my line of work, it's legislation, and if there's a demanding policy that needs to be driven, or something consumer facing, or whatever our external stakeholders are in the moment, then obviously the priority gets shifted. But overall, there's an opportunity for us to lean in and do collaborative work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing. My name is Nuna Taja, and I work at a nonprofit that is bringing technology access to under-resourced communities in Los Angeles. And we talked about, with the glass cliff, there can be certain reasons why the environment may feel unstable. Economic downturns, resource constraints. I want to ask a question specifically about leading through layoffs. Especially my background is in the tech industry, so have scathed a few layoffs. As a leader, if you've been in that position where you've stayed, or you've had to rebuild a team and you've had to create that stability, how do you go about that? Especially with a lot of that true emotion and everything that everyone may be experiencing, like you're saying, the facts versus the feelings.
I'm in tech. With AI and chatbots and life and algorithms, layoffs are going to happen. They are going to happen. And there's no secret. I'm a very direct person. So my team, organizations, we all know what you do today is not going to be what you do tomorrow. And here's the future skills that you need to decide if you are willing to work on. So I'm on both sides. I am a decision maker for making sure my customers are taken care of and our company is profitable. I always tell my team I am not a 501c3 company. We work for we want to make money organization, which means that we have to make some tough decisions. But you have to lead with facts. Remember that mirror I talked about? Are you in a role that may not be of value in the near future to the company that you work for? Perhaps it will be of value to another company. So companies will make decisions. So I do have to lead with the facts. There are going to be changes that happen. But if you prepare for the skills that are needed, then you can pivot. And that's what we do in our organizations is I know that I'm not going to need people to do A, but I need people that can do B, C, and D. If you're willing to do it, there's an opportunity. I've gotten 2 30-day notices at the company I work for. My job went away, I got outsourced. And on day 30, I got a job. And it wasn't for performance, my whole team, it was outsourced. So it may happen to you and you are the best employee. It's just companies right now are making some very tough decisions and you have to make some very tough decisions as well for yourself.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. So on the other side of the coin, walking away. So some of us are from that generation. You get a job, you stay there, you do not leave. We are in a completely different environment. How do we weigh the risk versus reward? How do we muster up that courage to say, you know what, I'm done?
I would take less risk in this season. And that's the honest truth. I think something you mentioned about facts and feelings really stuck with me. You have to sit in your feelings for like 10 seconds.
Is that all? Just 10?
Just 10. I think Beyonce said a day, but like 10. I think she said a day. I think she's like, you're allowed to be upset for a day, then move on. Okay. And I think that's the same. I think in this season, and again, it's seasonal, unfortunately, you have to move with the tides. If you can afford to move on, because your wellness and well-being matters, that's something I care about, move on. If you cannot, be honest with yourself and figure out how you create a community around you that's going to support you and hold you in this season. Because that we don't talk about enough.
Right.
Because we all have bills, we all have families, especially this room. We have people who look to us for support. And that to me matters more in this season than anything else. So then you have to build tenacity. I think I hear it on the stage. There's a level of tenacity and grit that you're going to need to build to get through some of the toughest seasons, and this one happens to be one. So find the people that care about you, that actually like you. They may not be at work, but they might be. And build that barrier to protect you. It's a rough road.
Sorry, yeah, I would ask, there is a power in the pause in terms of decision making, and it is a very personal decision on whether you should leave or, it's factoring your sense of purpose, what are your priorities, and so it's easy and difficult. Like I know folks who, in this political space, who just could not work in government affairs because of, and that's their decision. But then what I would also say is that we should never stop networking. We should never stop sharpening our skills. So when the time, unfortunate times come that we can lean on our support systems. I think, we echo this thing of networking and really a lot of us don't do it, or we don't do it as often, or we don't know how to do it, and we don't ask for help to navigate that. So I think just being proactive and ready, and sometimes, yes, ready in the timing is not always on our side, but ready in the networking and building our support system is always on our side.
I'll tell you, when I got my 30-day notice, it was like about 10 years ago, and I was buying Similac and diapers, and it was scary when I got the notice. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I mean, I told my husband, what am I gonna do? And he's like, you're gonna be fine. It was probably the best thing that happened to me, because it made me realize I will never be in this situation again, whereas I am going to be nervous about losing my check. So I got very financially disciplined. My network, I knew that the first 5 people I called were not gonna be able to help me because they didn't have roles. They may wanna help me, but I'm like, my Rolodex got a lot bigger. The relationships got more intentional. And I will tell you, financial freedom is your friend.
Facts.
And that will allow you to put the badge on the table by choice or force. So today, what I would encourage you all to do is look at your portfolio. Make sure that you have options, because that will allow you, whether in this environment, if you get the phone call, you don't have to be nervous and you won't lose everything because you lost your job, because you'll have the options.
Yeah, that's good. I was talking to a woman today, earlier, and we were having this conversation, and she talked about exit strategy and just making sure that whether it's your decision or their decision, that you set yourselves up to where it doesn't hurt as much. I mean, everything's gonna hurt to some degree, but having, your finances in order. If you have a partner, having that conversation with your partner to say, look, you're gonna have to get this because I need to go sit down for a second. Whether it's my choice or if it's the organization's choice. So I think having an exit strategy is critical.
I also just want to say, understanding, and I see that we got to go to the next question, but I do want to say that also knowing your worth helps you not be so afraid. And if you don't know that today, I would say start working on that. Start writing down, what are the skills that you have? What are the skills that are transferable to things that you may not have ever done before? And then your opportunities for that next whatever broaden so much more. We all think we can only do these 2, 3 things. We really can do a lot more. So I would say, on top of everything that everyone else said, make sure you know your worth.
That's good. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you ladies for all the gems you're dropping to help us thrive in our careers. My name is Catherine Charleston. I am a Director of Solution Engineering for our sales team for data and AI products. And I have a question. I know we talked about blockers, but how do you deal with detractors, where it seems like no matter what the results show, they're positive, they're successful, you have everyone on the team on board to support your initiatives, but it seems like there's some people in the room where their only goal is to derail things, to take them in a different direction, and you're bringing them in to be collaborative and a team player, but how do you deal with them?
What do you do with cancer?
Yes, and that's...
'Cause that's what that is. That's a cancer, and we eradicate cancer. You give them a chance for so long, but if you see this as a continuum, it's going on and on and on, then I look as a leader, shame on me for not taking the right action against something that's taking the whole team down. I can't stand for that, and if I have my team's back, I gotta get rid of the cancer.
Yeah.
You're gonna have them though, I will tell you.
Yeah.
It sounds so easy. You gotta follow the guidelines, because we would like to hit delete on a lot of people.
We do follow the
Does-
guidelines.
but
I'm
it does-
ER.
right,
Listen,
she
I'm
ER.
in
She can do
ER.
things like-
We follow the guidelines.
In my world. I know.
There is a way.
There's a way. I'm
can
in a
help
different
you.
side of the business. I manage, I have engineers, I have this. So for one, you're gonna have people that question, why are they here? They don't know what they're doing. You are going to constantly have, the higher you go, they're gonna follow you. They're gonna always just be baggage that comes along. You have to decide, are they really that annoying? Are they doing something harmful? Because there's always gonna be negativity. You have to decide what the detractor is, because all of you have a detractor. Whether they come out visibly, the worst detractors are those that they sit and they smile and they have little minions that do their detracting.
Say that again.
Right? That's what they do. So, but you have to decide if it's really toxicity,
Correct.
You have to strategize, and you have their toxicity on display so everyone knows. And then when there's a performance concern, you document facts. Remember, you can't operate in feelings. Just because somebody's annoying doesn't mean they factually have done something that you can hit delete. So you just have to be mindful of that and realize they'll be okay. 'Cause they're not going away.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I tell you, time flies. I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, we're almost, yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, oh, so we can do the last two? Okay, all right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Lanice McNutt, and I'm here from RAP. I'm a senior data analyst serving the Army account. And I felt a lot of resonance from some of the comments regarding working in glass cliff roles, but seeing them as a viable opportunity to grow. And I really like the sentiment of going off the cliff, but landing on your feet, or maybe even catching wind under your wings and taking off. I wonder if for some of us who have a long rap sheet of glass cliff roles where we're brought in a time of crisis, but maybe are now in a non-crisis role, how do you remain conscientious and find footing? How do you make impact in this non-crisis role, but not become complacent? That's my question.
I've never had one of those non-crisis situations. Because actually what Cindy said is best. Most of us who are in situations that are messy, our job is to clean it up and move on. So then you're handing the package and beautiful department to someone else, but there's always something to work on. If your question is more of, I want to be relevant and I still want to find something to work on, know what's important to your company. Know what's important. If you have a public company, join every investor's call. Everything is public information to you. So know what's important to your company. Know the politics, like you said, the people that they're supporting. Know that. If you're in a nonprofit, you can figure out what's important. Find an initiative that's important to your company and get involved and engaged. And maybe enjoy not having to be the fixer for 5 minutes, but then go find something to fix and transform and make better.
Yeah.
And I believe in the power of ideation. I come up with a ton of ideas, and really am unafraid to share them with leadership. I believe in the power of getting the buy-in of executive leadership on ideas that I have to execute. So a lot of the work I do, maybe the data-driven pieces, the votes that, from Congress. But aside from that, when we are in our down period, it's like what other activities, events I can do to help strengthen my partnerships, relationships within the company, but also what creative events can I put together to bring the brand of Toyota outside just an auto company, and how do we elevate our mobility for all, and how do we amplify the external work that we're doing in alignment with our government affairs work. And so I think it's just in the personality and also in this idea of taking risks to come up with some really creative ideas.
Yeah, thank
Just
you.
quickly on that,
Question.
you said it earlier, it's okay to pause. There's power in stillness. And I don't know if you need this permission, but you have the permission to not operate in crisis. Take it.
Yeah, that's good. All right, last question, quickly.
Hi, ladies, and you've been just amazing in this panel, so transparent and really helpful in clarifying a lot of the things that many of us have experienced. I'm Fumi Ayegba. I work for United Health Group, and I want to take us down that glass cliff. So you succeeded, you did the thing. How do you perpetuate this new brand of yourself, this new image? How do you share your story forward?
Oh, I love that question.
Do.
Yeah, you just do. I work in the creative space, I work in advertising, previously in tech, but I was always told by creatives, you have to tell the most compelling story ever, but you have to write your story. No one else is gonna write your story for you. So I think someone said it earlier, start documenting your successes, start writing that story, and start publicly building your brand.
Yes.
That is the only way anyone's going to see that you have value.
Yeah. And do not be afraid to toot your own horn.
That's right.
Remember when I came up and I said, I'm an award-winning?
Yeah.
Let them know.
Three-time award-winning. And I get it. I promise you I do. Because it took me a long time to actually say that. Because because we think it might come across as bragging. But it's facts.
Facts.
It's the facts. So yeah, if you find yourself on a glass cliff and you crush it, that is an amazing story to tell. That is an amazing legacy to leave. So you just do. You tell your story. Be unapologetic about the success that you have had.
And in our 12 seconds, it's also the hope that you inspire into others for repeat. So we have to tell our stories. We have to mentor. We have to coach, because we have to show you that it is possible and that it's there. It's achievable. Yeah. So yes, tell our stories.
Yes, indeed. Waste nothing. So ladies, out of all of the conversation that we've had today, we've talked a lot about the glass cliff. We talked about falling off the cliff. We talked about landing on our feet. We talked about weighing the risk versus reward. We talked about the detractors, and we talked about all of the things. And in all of that, waste nothing. Take note of all of it, because all of it is a setup for your next. And your next may not be with the same organization that you're with today. But like Olanda said, take that treasure chest and you go somewhere else. So ladies, we are so happy that you decided to join us today.